Alright, it's Henry again, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Robot Damashii Tallgeese 2. Alright, so this is the Tallgeese 2. This is a Damashii web shop exclusive figure. So they're really not that hard to find, they're just kind of pricey. Unless you live in Japan and can order them off of the Damashii web shop, in which case you'll pay the same price as any other Robot Damashii figure. But for those of us who live overseas, there's always a little bit of markup involved. Anyway, it's a very, very nice looking figure. Very anime accurate, looks much, much better than the old 1:144 scale no-grade Tallgeese 2. And looks about as good as the 1:100 scale high-grade Tallgeese 2 that, Tallgeese 3 that you can turn into a Tallgeese 2 that Bandai released in 1997. So anyway, you're going to get a Tallgeese 2 figure, a dauber gun, a shield, you get 2 beam saber handles, but unfortunately only 1 blade, and you'll get 9 different hands with this figure. You get 2 open hands, 2 special hands used for holding the dauber gun, which I'll show you in a little bit. You get a beam saber hand, 2 weapon hands, and then the 2 closed fists that you see on Tallgeese there. And you'll get a sheet of instructions just showing you how everything is used. So let's go ahead and start with articulation. Now for anybody who has a Robot Damashii figure, you know that the articulation on these things is pretty good usually. And that is true for the most part on Tallgeese 2 here. The only place where articulation really suffers is the head. And for most of the reviews I've watched of other people going over this figure, that seems to be their main complaint. So, anyway, the down movement and up movement is really, really good. He's got fantastic up and down movement on the head. Side to side is really good as well. But for some reason, Bandai decided to mold this little blue part to the head. So it's actually all one piece, which severely limits the rotation. That's pretty much all you're going to get. If you go back, you can rotate the head a little bit more, but not very much. I believe the same exact thing exists on the Tallgeese 3 Robot Damashii as well. And every other Tallgeese and Tallgeese 2 figure or model kit I've seen has had the head separate from this little blue part. I have no idea why Bandai thought it was a good idea to mold them together like that. But in doing so, they've severely limited the rotation of the head. But thankfully, the rest of the figure has excellent articulation. We'll do the torso first, I get. You've got 3 joints in the torso. One here, here, and then at the waist. So you've got really good forward bend and a really good backward bend. Nice side-to-side movement. Unfortunately, due to the way the skirt armor is shaped, you're only going to get rotation about 90 degrees to each side, and that's using all of the joints, the rotation joints there. But then again, really, how often are you going to need to rotate the waist any further than that anyways? For the arms, you've got a joint inside the torso that's going to give you a little bit of forward and back, and a little bit of up and down. And then the actual shoulder joint will go up about this far, and it could go up further, but obviously this shoulder armor is getting in the way. As you can see, it's touching the torso there, so that's about as far up as it's going to go. It'll do a 360 just fine. You got 360 below the shoulder. You've got a full 180 degree bend, or just about full 180 degree bend at the elbow, which is really impressive considering it's a single jointed elbow. It's not even a double joint. Single jointed elbow bending that far is actually really nice. And you've got a double ball joint for the wrists. The wrists seem a little bit loose, but I haven't had any problems with them popping off, so they should be fine. While they're on the arm, we might as well go ahead and do the thruster pods back here. They're connected with a ball joint and a hinge, so they can move up and get a little bit of back and forth and rotate. The fin can move up and they open up. Both panels are connected together, so they open up simultaneously, and you got some detail in the thrusters up inside there. Moving on to the skirt armor. Skirt armor I was actually impressed with, because just about every other version of the Tallgeese, being an action figure or a model kit, with the exception of the B-Club resin Tallgeese, has had just a solid waist section with no moving parts at all. But on the robot Damashii version, these little front skirts are actually on a ball joint, so they can move up and down and wiggle and rotate, and I just thought that was a really nice touch, as well as these parts right here, which I guess would equate to side skirts. They can move up and down. The hips are on a ball joint. They can go up about that far thanks to the movable front skirts. I forgot to mention, these back skirts, however, do not move. They're fixed in place, although you do have really nice detail on the undersides of those skirt armors. Let's see, these big side skirts on the side of the leg don't move at all. The knee has got almost a full 180 degree bend, and it's got kind of an odd moving armor there. Rather than having the entire knee armor move, it's just this little hexagonal shaped piece in the center that moves, which I guess is fine. It's just kind of odd looking. You got this little empty spot here when the knee's bent. Anyway, moving on to the ankle. The ankle is double jointed. As you can see, this little circular thing right here is separate from the leg and the foot. So you've got really nice side to side. You've got forward and back, and it can rotate 360. And then there's a joint in the center of the foot, which will let the end move up and down. Nice detail on the bottom of the feet as well. So I guess that about does it for Tallgeese 2's articulation. Now let's move on to the weapons and accessories. Alright, first up will be the shield. There it is. There's no eagle scribed on it, because the Tallgeese 2 never did have an eagle. That was only on the Tallgeese 1. But you've got detail on the back, as well as 2 beam sabers being stored back here. And you've got this little attachment on the top, which has actually got several points of movement in it, which will attach to the shoulder armor. And then you've also got a handle here, which can swing out and rotate, which can be used if you wish to have the shield held in the hand. And it's just got a little socket here, which will connect to this ball joint. Pops in easily enough, and can be stored just like so. And there is a weapon hand included for you to hold the shield. It can actually hold it. The way they say to do it in the instructions is to simply swing the shield out like so, and then pull this handle out and slide it in the fist like so. And that's how they suggest in the instructions that Tallgeese hold the shield. And you could certainly detach the shield from this little connector right here, and even turn it around the other way. I believe in the 1 to 1/44 and 1 to 100 scale model kits, Tallgeese was made to hold his shield like this, detached from the shoulder. So you have that option as well. Now on the other shoulder, we have the dauber gun, which is a little bit different than the traditional Tallgeese dauber gun. Traditionally, the handle just comes out from the bottom right there and doesn't move, but here the handle is offset to the side, similar to the way it is on the Tallgeese 3's beam cannon, and the handle can actually fold up for storage and then swing back out when it needs to be in use. The ammo clip does not come out, it's molded in place. The barrel can slide up and down, but that's for a feature I'll show you in a minute. And the connector here has a ball joint socket similar for the shield, and has, let's see, 1, 2, 3 points of movement on it. And it simply pops in place quite easily onto the shoulder, and there you go. Now, similar to on the left side, you have a weapon hand for the right, which can be used to hold the dauber gun. And just orient it in such a way that the handle can slide down on the side of the hand. It's kind of fiddly, but you can get it down in there, and then have Tallgeese wielding the dauber gun like so. Now, there is a special gimmick for the dauber gun. Tallgeese 2 comes with 2 extra hands, as you see here. And then we'll be attaching those 2 hands to Tallgeese 2 like so. And then we'll take the dauber gun, and the barrel will actually slide in like so. It becomes much, much shorter. And we can now recreate the scene where Treize and the Tallgeese 2 were standing atop the mobile suit carrier and leading the Oz army into battle. And the last weapons for the Tallgeese 2 are, of course, the beam sabers. As you saw earlier, they are stored up underneath the shield. And they're kind of hard to get to because they're pressed right up against the back of the shield. But they just pop right out. And one of the few downsides to this figure is that you only get one clear pink beam, although it does look very, very nice. And the beam simply plugs right into the handle. And we get a special, kind of almost thumbs-up looking hand for the beam saber. Unfortunately, we only get one for the right side, but the weapon hand for the left will work with the beam saber just fine. And of course, finally, we have 2 open expressive hands that are also included. And before we wrap up, here's a quick comparison of the Robot Damashii Tallgeese 2 to the old 1:144 scale no-grade Tallgeese 2. Even though it's unpainted and just in black and white, you can see the Robot Damashii is a little bit taller and overall much, much more nice looking. Well, that about does it for my review of the Robot Damashii Tallgeese 2. And overall, I think it's an excellent figure. It's got the same quality of the other Robot Damashiis that I've gotten so far. Not that I've gotten very many, but overall, I think it's really, really nice. My only 2 complaints about the figure are that the rotation of the head is so limited, and the fact that it's only got 1 beam saber blade, but it has 2 beam sabers. But overall, it looks fantastic. It's a very, very nice, accurate representation of the Tallgeese 2. At first, I wasn't crazy about the gold on the head in place of yellow, but it has grown on me. It's a very, very nice shade of gold. So I think that ended up looking good after all. I love the color of blue they used, and I really like the kind of metallic, dark bronze color they used for the hands and the weapons and stuff like that. The articulation is excellent, like I said, with the exception of the head, and just the sculpting and the detail is really, really nice as well. I haven't really had any paint app problems either. All of the paint apps look to be pretty much spot on. So, like I said, this is a Damashii web shop exclusive, so the real challenge in getting one is just going to be forking out the money for it. My piece of advice, don't buy the first one you see, because the first one you see is probably going to be overpriced. All the Robot Damashii Tallgeese 2s on eBay are overpriced, at least the ones I've seen, and I would just wait and be patient until you find a good deal on this guy before just rushing out and getting one for, you know, $150, which is what some of these crazy people on eBay charge for it. So if you can find a really good deal on him, I'd say definitely try and pick it up. Unless, you know, you prefer Tallgeese 3, that's a much easier figure to find and much less expensive, and pretty much the same thing sculpt-wise. So that about does it for my review of this figure, the Tallgeese 2, and with that, I'll see you guys next time.